Hello, and welcome to your first SolidWorks modeling learning assignment. In this modeling learning assignment, we're going to be focusing on creating a part. It's a pretty simple part, but it's got a couple pieces to it, so we'll go ahead and dive in. So when you open up SolidWorks, this is the interface you have. You'll notice I'm using SolidWorks 2018. It's because I'm old school. Also, it's because I haven't updated SolidWorks on my computer in several years. When you first open, you may get a welcome screen, but I click out of that. So the first things that we're going to do is we're going to go up to the File menu and we're going to create a brand new drawing. Now, just like what you'll see whenever you open up a Microsoft Word document or even an AutoCAD drawing, it's always going to ask you what type of template you want to be working off of. Here we're going to be wanting to work with parts for right now. Eventually we're going to get to a point where we're working with assemblies, and then we'll get to drawings. We'll actually talk about drawings a little bit later on in this, but for now we're going to start with a part. So I'm going to go ahead and click part and OK. Now you'll notice that the background for SolidWorks is a little bit different than what you were dealing with AutoCAD. SolidWorks is inherently a 3D modeling program, which means that we're simultaneously dealing with all three dimensions moving around. First thing you may notice is when it comes to navigating in SolidWorks, your mouse button is no longer your best friend. I tend to draw a lot in AutoCAD, and I really enjoy the navigation where you press the center wheel and drag your mouse to pan, or you can scroll your mouse in and out to zoom. In SolidWorks, it's a little different, and I'll show you that in a second. First, let's jump into a sketch. So here are all of your menus for drawing. In this class, we're only going to be discussing the sketch and features tabs. We'll get a little bit into the SolidWorks add-ins in later classes. Looks like I have my sheet metal enabled. I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off. The simulation, and for some reason the sheet metal is still on. But there are a number of add-ins that you can work in that allow you to do some very interesting things in here, like if you want to design some circuits, if you want to have something that moves, if you want to assess the stress in a component, and then there's a toolbox that allows you to load in screws, bolts, etc., which you can use that for a part of the project for this class. But let's go back to the modeling learning assignment. In the features tab, right now most everything is grayed out because we don't have anything to work with. The goal with SolidWorks is you have to create a sketch and then you have to do something with the sketch to make a 3D feature out of it. So we'll go to the sketch tab. You'll notice you got a lot of options. You can just start drawing. That's not a very good way of doing it. Typically what I would recommend that you always do is start with a sketch. I'm going to go ahead and click sketch. Now it's going to pop up the three planes. You'll notice right here there is this piece, over here there's this piece. We have a lot of stuff going on our screen. When you click on a screen, sometimes it doesn't always show the planes. There's two ways you can find a plane to draw on. First of all is expand this. This is called the part tree. You can actually find your three planes, front, top, and right plane right here. Otherwise, you can go back to your feature manager design tree over here and you can see the three planes as well. You can also select the origin. So for the start, I'm going to start by drawing on the top plane. You'll notice this is the XZ direction. This is the location of the origin. And we're just kind of drawing in this general space. I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle. So here in AutoCAD, typically what you do is you have to draw a rectangle and then you'll have some kind of a prompt line down here that'll say how big do you want it to be, what points do you want it to be at. In SolidWorks we don't have that. The idea is in SolidWorks is that once you've drawn a shape, you generally draw it to the same size as what you want. So I'm going to hit escape here. You generally draw it to the same size as what you want, and then you'll dimension it later to kind of fine-tune it. So you get everything into its basic location, and then you fine-tune it with dimensions. We also have something called relations. We're not really going to be getting into relations today. That'll be a discussion for another ring model learning assignment. So for right now, we've got this square. you'll notice that the lines on the outside of this are blue. If I click on them and drag them, it allows me to move these lines in and out. I can also click on these points here, they're called vertices, and I can stretch both lines at the same time. You'll see these green things right here that show horizontal and vertical. These are called constraints. If I click on it and delete it, you'll notice that I'm able to actually move this, and now this line is no longer horizontal. If I click on this one and delete this one, this line is no longer constrained to only be vertical. So if I move this point out, it'll just rotate out. Okay, that is in effect what relations are. So here I'm going to click on it. I'm going to force this to be vertical. Click on this, force this to be horizontal, and we're good there. Okay, so I'll hit escape to get out of that. We also have some dimensions. We'll get into this in a later drawing. For now, I'm actually going to avoid doing dimensions. We're just going to kind of sketch and see what happens. So I've got my rectangle. I'm just going to leave it at that. I will go ahead and exit sketch. Now I have my rectangle. This is my sketch that I drew. It's in the XZ plane. You will notice that if I hold down my center mouse button and move my mouse around, this does something called a 3D orbit. Okay, this is one of the most singular, most frustrating features for me in SolidWorks, because I am very used to working in AutoCAD where that center mouse button is pan. Okay, you don't pan with the center mouse button unless you hold down the shift button. Okay, that's not shift, it's control. If you hold down the control button and then hold down your center mouse wheel and scroll it around, that's how you pan. Okay, your center mouse wheel again, if you roll it in or out, this will zoom, but you have to hold down the control button to pan. And I will always forget that, so you're going to see me a number of times forgetting how to pan, because I don't do it well. It's not natural to me. I like to grab the mouse wheel and spin it, which is 3D order. But you can actually change this setting. I choose not to because I teach SolidWorks. So, yeah. Now that this is in a gross position, how do I get it to something that's reasonable? Well, first of all, you can click on the axes themselves. So here I drew on the XZ plane. If I click on the Y axis, it will show me the XZ plane. If I click on it again, it will actually flip it upside down. So that's one handy dandy feature. You also have up here something called a view orientation. So here a view orientation will allow you to, you can push down the center mouse button and pan around. It'll let you select different faces. So here if I want to look at it from this side, I can do that. I can look at it from the top edge. I don't know why I wouldn't want to look at it from the front. But you can select different views that way. Alright, so just having a sketch is not very exciting. We're going to go into features, and now you'll notice we've got a couple of extra features here, but not a whole lot. These will open up once we have something called a body, and these are how we create our body. So with this sketch currently selected, notice if I deselect this by hitting escape, this is no longer selected. If I click on it again, it selects the sketch again. If I click on extruded boss base, I've got my sketch selected. It's going to automatically throw that sketch into my selected contours. So here, just to show you, we wouldn't do this in real drawing, but oh, it's not actually going to let me delete. Okay, there it is. Let me delete it out. So here, I have no selected contours. I need to go in here, click on this, and then find my sketch. So I can go to my part tree, or I can go in here to my feature manager. Oh, I can't actually do that. And then I will select sketch 1, and that will be my selected contours. You can also select just some lines out of a sketch, although I've found that tends to be a little bit more cumbersome. And what we're doing is we're doing something called an extrusion. Okay, an extrusion allows you to create a 3D shape by taking a simple shape and then pulling it up. Okay, you can pull it up so that it has flat sides, or you can do something called a draft. If I do so here, let me pull it up 4 inches. Okay, So it's a big box. It looks like a brick here. If I add a draft to this, I can increase the angle, and you'll notice that the sides all slope in at that point. If you're trying to insert two objects into each other, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a draft angle so that it becomes a little bit more self-inserting. For this one, I'm going to ignore having a draft angle and look at a couple of other things that we can do. We can also do something called a thin feature. A thin feature will take the lines and it will assume that you only want to extrude around the lines. So here, you'll notice this is a hollow box now. It's because it's a thin feature. And then I can set the width of those lines, I can set it to be like 1/4 of an inch. And now the thickness around that line is 1/4 of an inch. So there's a couple of very interesting things that we can do here to create some different types of bodies in SolidWorks. Now when it comes to direction, right now we have it set to a blind direction extruding at 4 inches. Okay. A couple of different options that we have is if we had several surfaces, we could have it go up to a vertex, or we would select a vertex and then it would just extrude all the way up to that. It tends to match faces really well. You can have up to surface. This is if you have a complex surface that you're extruding to. It can be really helpful. Offset from surface, if you have a complex surface you're extruding to and you don't want to touch it, but you want to be close to it, you can do that. Otherwise you can do up to body, which is kind of the same thing. And there is something else called a mid-plane. A mid-plane extrusion, that was weird, made me select a distance. A mid-plane extrusion extrudes half of your extrusion distance one direction and then half the other direction. So here, if I go back to 4 inches, it's going to have 2 inches extruded upward, 2 inches extruded downward. Typically what we're going to be doing is we'll do a lot of blind measurements. We may do some, it's good SolidWorks practice to do other types of extrusions, but we will talk about that when we get there. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is good enough. Now one of the nice features about SolidWorks is I need to draw another sketch. I'm going to use the extruded cut feature to create some holes. And I'm going to round some of these edges too. So we'll do another sketch. Now here you'll notice that it doesn't pop up my planes. If I go into my feature manager, I can select those 3 planes and I can sketch on them directly if I wanted to. But I also have the option to select different faces. So here these are flat faces. It has to be flat. You can't draw on a curved face. I could draw on any of these faces now. So let's say I'm going to pick this face right here, and this is the face that I want to do a sketch on. So with that selected, I hit sketch. You'll notice in my features tab, everything grays out. In my sketch tab now, I have all of this available, but most importantly, I have this sketch piece here. You'll also notice that it says I'm editing sketch 2, and in my part tree, this bar here shows that my sketch 2 is at the bottom. Everything above here is accepted. Everything below here is what's called suppressed. It's another topic we'll get to later. I am going to zoom in on this face, and I'm going to draw a weird geometry, and I'm going to cut it out of this box. Okay, so I'm going to take some lines. Here, all of these sketch elements are very similar to what you had in AutoCAD. The only difference is that these sketch elements now they're not intended to be drawn with the dimensions first. You add the dimensions later. So I'm going to start from the origin. I'll draw a line over here. I will then go up like this and kind of create a mountain profile. And then end back at the origin. Okay. Now, one thing you'll notice is that, I'm going to hit escape, is that these 2 lines turn black, whereas the rest of it is blue. These 2 lines, because they're horizontal and they're connected to the origin, are considered to be fully defined. Now, their end vertices are blue, these 2 points here, and their end vertices are blue because those vertices are not defined. I can grab these points and I can drag them out. We'll be talking about definition and that in the next modeling learning assignment video. For now, I want to show off some of the solid features. So we'll go ahead and exit sketch with this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into features and I'm going to do an extruded cut. Okay, now with my mouse button, you can cut a certain distances. This is called blind. You can cut through all, which would cut through absolutely everything. You can cut through all both, which basically cuts both sides through everything that you have drawn. You can cut up to surface, which means like you can cut, if you have some body in between two surfaces, you can cut between those two surfaces and then stop. You can offset from that surface, so almost to the surface and then stop. And once again, you can also do a mid-plane where it will cut half on both sides. For this one, I'm just going to do a blind cut into this because it'll kind of give it a unique shape. I'm going to have it extrude 4 inches seems good. I'm going to turn off direction 2 because I only want to go one direction. And with that, once again, you can do another draft. So here I could have it slope inward. That'd kind of give it a really funky shape. But you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. You can also flip the side to cut. So here, let's say I accidentally am cutting this way. I wanted to cut this way. You can flip that side here. I think this is only allowing me to cut one direction. Just because, well, there's nothing else to cut the other way. But you can do that with that button too. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. And you'll notice now that I have a funky geometry there. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Once again, one of the nice features about this format in SolidWorks is if I go to sketch, I can sketch on any of these surfaces. So I'll go ahead and sketch on this one. Now I'm not really zoomed in on that surface, so I'm going to go to my view orientation and hit normal to. Since I'm in a sketch, it says down here I'm editing sketch 3. It will zoom normal to that sketch surface so that I am drawing now on a flat plane. So I'm going to draw a circle here. And I'm going to make a circular cut. So I'll go ahead and exit sketch. And I'll go into features. And I will do what's called an extruded cut. Now you'll notice my sketch 3 is selected. Down here in my selected contours, sketch 3 again is selected. Always have to make sure that that is the case when you go to do this. I'm going to have this cut through all both so that in case some changes happen, I can do that. So now I have an interesting shaped piece that has a hole in it, has some kind of spiky edges, and it looks a little like that. You can do a whole lot more with this shape to make it a little bit more interesting. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and say that I like this enough. Now, one of the things I'm going to showcase is I will go back in and edit one of these sketches to basically say what happens if I want this to be a little thinner in this direction. Now this is where SolidWorks really excels above AutoCAD. AutoCAD created a program called Inventor that can do a lot of these, but it was in response to SolidWorks taking this very unique approach to modeling. So here I just grabbed a line and I moved it. I'll hit OK, and what you'll see is that it's going to completely rebuild my drawing from here with this new part now. Okay. Cut this so that I can see a little bit more here. This is now that same shape as that rectangle. Everything is the case. I can go in here and move this circle to a different location. It will move the entire cut. I can go in here and move all of these pieces to different locations, and it will change the entire cut around it. So this is one of the benefits of SolidWorks, and we're going to be getting a little bit more into that later. For now, we're going to hit one last feature before we put this into printable material. I'm going to go into my sketch, and I'm going to sketch here on the top surface. And I'm going to pick, let's see, I'll pick an ellipse, just because I think that's fun. I'm going to draw an ellipse, and I'm going to draw it up here on this top surface. That's going to be kind of skinny, a little weird like that. Okay. Nice. Now I'm also going to do one other thing. I'm going to draw a line. Another nice feature that is available in SolidWorks is because I'm drawing on this plane here, this flat plane up top, I actually have access to some individual points here. So I can click directly on this point here. If I hover over, it'll show that that point in there is the center. You'll see that at the point of the pencil. I can click on that point and I can drag it across. And you'll notice if I hover over here, there's another orange point. That's the midpoint of that line. Now, this line is fully defined. That's why it's solid black. And that's because I set it to no matter what this dimension changes to. If I go back, like how we did, and adjust the size of that rectangle, this line will always be in the center of that rectangle piece. So I don't have to worry about redimensioning it, repositioning it, whatever it is there. But I don't really want this to be a line that I draw around. This one's going to be an axis that I revolve around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, click the line, go to my line properties on my left side, and I'm going to click for construction. If I hit escape, you'll notice that this line now has kind of a center line feature. It's got the dot dash on it. I'm going to go ahead and hit exit sketch now. So now I have sketch 4 selected. I will go back into my features and I'm going to do what's called a revolved boss base. Okay, so clicking revolved boss base, it automatically assumes that this solid, this enclosed body that I created is going to be the body. And here it automatically assumed that my axis of revolution was going to be that construction line that I created. If that's not the case, you can always delete whatever is in here and click it. Now once again, we have a couple of features available with our revolve. One of them is blind, one of them is up to vertex, so here you can rotate a certain angle. You can offset from surface, so here almost to a surface, but not quite. And then once again, we can do a mid-plane extrusion. Here, instead of picking a distance, we're going to be picking an angle across. So after we have our selected contour down here, which, oh, I mean, it picked it. It just isn't showing up. That's funny. And after we have our axis of revolution, you'll see that show up. You're going to want to merge result because it's going to create one part of this. If you don't merge the result, you will end up with two parts inside of the same part. It kind of gets ugly. It's just good practice to merge the result. You can have it rotate a certain angle one direction and a certain angle the other direction if you want to do the direction 2 feature. Once again, you can also do thin feature. This would only extrude the outside line of my ellipse rather than extruding the center whole entire solid feature of the ellipse. I don't want to do thin feature on this one. I think that's good. You'll see that it forms a circular shape if I focus on this route, and it just looks like the rectangle over here. So looks like it didn't pick that piece. It's interesting. But I'll go ahead and hit OK and say that's good enough. So now I have this weird circle piece on top. Yeah, so those are the major features that you're going to be using, is the extruded boss base, the extruded cut, and the revolved boss base. You can make a lot of circular shapes with the revolved boss base. We'll be talking about the swept and the lofted boss base another time. We'll also be talking about the revolved cut. Revolved cut is basically just a cut that is revolved. We'll also be talking about lofted and swept cuts at that point. And then we have a number of other features that we can add in. So we will get to those in time. For now, we're going to call this part good. I'm going to go ahead and file, save as. I like to have a single folder that I save all of my parts to. It just makes it easier for me to find them. So go into my 2023 spring 2. I got my modeling learning assignment here. I've got my AutoCAD. Those are some of my SolidWorks MLAs from other years, which I am not reusing. So I'm just going to create my own SolidWorks folder. And we will call this MLA 1. Let's just some part. Now this is saved as a .sldprt file. How do you hand this one in? Well, in order to hand this in, we have to create a drawing file. So here I'm going to go up to File, New. You'll see again we got the part assembly drawing. We're going to skip the assembly for right now. We need multiple parts to do that. And we will select the drawing. I'm going to hit OK. Now it'll open up a brand new interface, and this will be a little bit different. It'll ask me, what do I want to use for my landscape? Well, to do this, you're going to need to navigate to the Canvas file that I've posted. It's one of the downloadable files under Project 2. And you're going to need to find the following file. It is called donengsheetformat.slddrt. Okay, you will need to find that file, download it, and then when you go to create a drawing file, I'm going to have to browse and go find my donengsheet.slddrt file. Here, I know I have it located here. It's my only SLDDRT file that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and hit open on this. You'll notice that this sheet format pops up, and I'll hit OK. Now, what I've just done is I've applied a sheet format. This is very similar to what we had in AutoCAD. You'll notice this is a little bit different. Some of these features are automatic, like the sheet number now is automated, but there are still some features that you're going to have to fill out yourself. Here the date auto-populates, units auto-populate with whatever units you're using in the drawing, scale auto-populates, sheet numbers. You will need to adjust this. So this is what the drawing sheet looks like. It kind of looks like the layout tab in AutoCAD, but it is entirely a separate file. And what we're going to do is we're going to load in aspects of other files that are close to it. So here I've got MLA open. If I didn't, I'd have to go find it. But as you can see, MLA 1 is open right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and it's going to ask me, all right, let's put down a model view. I'm going to put down a model view, and there we go. There's a model view. Okay. Now, what you'll notice is I haven't hit escape yet. I haven't clicked anything. What it's doing now is it's doing something called a projected view. So the model view is the first view that you put down. It's just a view that shows, okay, here is the front view of whatever part you created. So here we did all of our drawing on the top view or on the right view. This is what the front view looks like. Now if I pull this up, this is what the top view would look like. And you'll notice that there's kind of a line there that shows that. If I pull it over to the right, this is showing this is what the right view would look like. And then I will go ahead and hit escape. If you missed some of that or you hit escape too early, you can go in here up at the top to the view layout, and you can do a projected view where you click on your model view and pull it out. Here you can even have an isometric view. But that's how you would get your projected views. Otherwise, you can also add in a model view. So here a model view will always ask you which part you want to be modeling. That's where you get your MLA1 and put this down. So what I want you to do for your assignment is you're going to be following this video and giving complex. This is a box shape with a shape cut out of the end. Here you can see the shape. It's also got a circle cut out of the end. And then it has kind of a weird rotated shape up on top. And then I want you to give me 3 views of that. Okay? We'll go ahead and name this drawing now. So I will double click, and this will be called MLA 1 simple part. It's usually a good idea to give a description. My description here is just going to be, this is a simple part with a box shape, a cutout, circular hole, and a revolve on top. Okay, you have your drawn by over here, which I can't edit. Nice. That's right. We'll talk about that in another drawing. and you can't actually change inches here. So I will go ahead and hit OK to the block title data. Now I think exporting from here is much easier than it is from AutoCAD, because here you can go to File and then just do Print. And that's the easiest way to do this. In Print, you have your sheet numbers down here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and set this to Microsoft Print to PDF. And yeah, I will go ahead and plot this current sheet. You can also plot certain numbers of sheets. If you want, you can plot all sheets. Here I'm just going to plot the current sheet. I'll hit OK. And then go into my MLA and save it. And oh, apparently it was from last year. Nice. Good job, me. There's my SolidWorks. There you are. Oh, this will be MLA 1. And I hit save. And now that PDF is going to be what I hand in for this assignment. So, good luck, and make sure to watch this video and follow along. I will see you in the next one.